Welcome to the Terrible Podcast with your hosts from SteelersDepot.com, where you can find all your latest and greatest Steelers news. It's Dave Bryan and Alex Kozora, always lit, talking Steelers. And now, here's Dave and Alex.
Welcome to the Terrible Podcast, Season 9, Episode 107. He's Dave Bryan. I'm Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com, a special edition of the Terrible Podcast to recap a busy, surprising, and to me, and hopefully to you, Dave, an awesome day one of the NFL Draft. The pick is in. It is Devin Bush, the linebacker from Michigan. Steelers going from 20-10 with a trade with the Denver Broncos to get their guy, Devin Bush. Dave, I don't even know where to begin with this thing. I am really happy about how things turned out, though.
I tell you, we probably didn't need all those extra months of doing the podcast, right? Because remember, we said after they sent the house to Michigan for the pro day, we said, well, he's a leader in the clubhouse right now. And quite honestly, I don't think he was ever not the leader in the clubhouse throughout this entire process. And, we kind of kibitzed a little bit right before we got on the show here. Man, that Kevin Colbert, you can't accuse him of trying to be deceptive in the pre-draft process at all because, whether we like it or not, unfortunately, I sucked at it this year, but reading the tea leaves and trying to force your own kind of beliefs into it sometimes, you just fail. You just choose to ignore some of the things he's telling you as fact. And, he told us going back to okay. Well, first of all, good morning, and I'm doing fine, and yes, I do. I think the pick is the right pick there. We had said, look, if he thinks this is his guy, why not go get him? I just didn't think that he would give up a second round pick to do so, but when you definitely frame it the way he framed it, and I think we kind of maybe framed it at one point during all these shows is really that third round pick that he got from Oakland for Antonio Brown as being essentially a low second round a very low second round pick, and what is it, like 14 picks away from the actual pick that they traded. And then you think you got the third round compensatory pick coming. Well, then, yeah, I mean, it does make a lot of sense. But you go all the way back to Kevin Colbert talking. Oh, what was the date of that? Right before the combine, I think it was the pre-combine presser that Kevin Colbert had, when he said, "We didn't do a good enough job replacing Ryan Shazier last year." I mean, that's clue number one right there, that we have to make this a priority to replace Ryan Shazier. And, he tried to tell us that, they're willing to trade up, blah, blah, blah. And, and how they had the draft capital as a result of the Antonio Brown trade. It was all there. And, it sounds like, I don't know what you took away from the press conference, but to re-listen to it a few more times and hear Kevin Colbert talk, it sounded like this has potentially been the plan to do this going into this draft for a few weeks now. And then the only question was, could they find themselves a trade partner? And lo and behold, they did. I didn't think they were going to be able to in Denver, and I'm surprised Denver decided to trade down 10 spots. But that's what happened, and whether you like the pick or not, you have to admire his conviction for seeing a guy, liking a guy, determining that's your guy, and going up and getting him.
For the normally conservative Steelers, when it comes to drafting and trading up, we know that, Colbert's only traded up in the first round twice prior to yesterday for Troy in 03 and Santonio in 06. The stars have to align perfectly. It's all got to come together with the right player, the right fit, the right draft picks, and it really did. And that's what Kevin Colbert said, is, having the 10 picks in general, getting the third from the AB deal, which works kind of as a low second-round pick, as you mentioned, having the third-round compensatory pick for next year, at least presumably for Le'Veon Bell. All those were critical factors in what made the Steelers feel comfortable in doing this deal and giving up that second-round pick that they almost never part ways with to make that move. And to trade up for Troy and Santonio, they didn't trade a second. They traded a third-round pick. So they really had to find that sweet spot and have a situation where it made a ton of sense. And Colbert said they weren't going to go into today, Friday, having less than 2 picks. And because of that third-round pick they got from AB, they still have 2 picks, 66 and 83. So it really worked out well. I was surprised as you. I thought if they had to move up, it was either going to be going to 8 or 9, jumping ahead of Denver or Cincinnati. I didn't think they were going to get a deal with Denver, but Denver sure as heck seemed open to it. It sounded like they were just waiting for Pittsburgh to submit the offer and agree to it. So really happy about the aggressiveness there, because if there was a time to be aggressive, I thought it was this year, and kudos to Kevin Colbert for that.
Yeah, I mean, look, they obviously had him, ranked 10th. Kevin Colbert said 10th on the board.
Maybe even higher than that. I think he alluded to it sounded like he was even higher.
All right, and they needed a trade partner, and they weren't going to. They were willing to come off that second, but not at the expense of leaving themselves without 2 day 2 picks, which they have and all, and obviously the whole compensatory perceived or speculated, them getting a third-round pick next year for losing Le'Veon Bell and of course LJ Fort and all. But yeah, I mean, it was easy enough dots to connect that we should have connected them. But on the flip side, I even tweeted out before the whole thing started. I personally thought there was a better chance of Devin Bush falling to, say, like 15 than it was for the Steelers to go up into the top 10, because I figured going up past number 10 was going to be way too expensive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And B, no way in hell Denver, Cincinnati, or Green Bay was going to trade with you.
Right.
But Denver ended up something. I don't know what do you think happened in those first 9 picks that caused Denver not to have their guy? Was it who was taken? Do you think that we owe flowers to?
I don't know. It may have been that their guy was Noah Fant, who they ultimately took at 20, and they may have thought we can get Fant at 20. There's no big concern that he's gonna go between 11 and 19. So let's trade down, get a couple picks, and still get our guy. That may have been their philosophy. I'm not sure. I didn't listen to Vic Fangio and John Elway's press conference and discussing the pick and the trade. So I don't know. But all I do know is that the Steelers found a trade partner and pulled this thing off. And I thought the value was not that. I thought they were going to have to give up more to go to 10. Giving up a 52 and a next year's third, that's not bad for going up 10 spots into the top 10.
Right, and I kind of figured maybe a 5th in there.
Yeah, I thought you had to sweeten the deal a little bit, but nope.
And I haven't even bothered to look at the trade chart. Have you? Not that it matters, because as Kevin Colbert says, the trade chart doesn't really matter to them. But look, like I said, if you're listening to this podcast, and whether you like the pick or you don't like the pick or what have you, you got to take your hat off and hand it to Kevin for identifying the guy that they wanted to go up and get. I'm not sure I would have, and I think I said that before this got on the way and wanted a podcast, maybe more than once. That I didn't think I would be one to go up to get Devin Bush, but also I thought it would be a little bit more expensive than actually what it was on top of it there. But I kind of wonder if maybe they thought T.J. Hawkinson or Daniel Jones might be there for them. Talking about Denver with the pick. But, I mean, they sure seem to be not too sad at all to drop down those 10 spots. And maybe, as you said, maybe Noah Fant was the guy that they had their eye on the whole time there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe they wanted Hawkinson, but with Hawkinson going to Detroit, they just said, let's go with Fant and we'll trade down because we know we can get him in the mid-first round. Let's talk about Bush as the player. And Dave, you always mentioned the Blues Clues. I'm not sure how that came about and how you're the one of the two of us mentioning Blues Clues, but there's no one that fits the Blues Clues better than Devin Bush. He checks, and this is like Terrell Edmonds last year. He checks every single box. Underclassmen, Power 5, Super Sparky, Colbert at his pro day. They confirmed they had the pro day dinner with him and a bunch of Michigan guys. Football bloodlines, high character, leader. I mean, do I have to go on? I mean, this is the guy that embodies what the history of a first-round pick in the Pittsburgh Steelers franchise is.
I was starting to get a little bit worried that we're going to have to go back to the drawing board.
I was too. And because our mentions would be destroyed. But, well, you said Alex and Dave. How dare you?
Yeah. What about that tip sheet you put out to build my perfect mock draft?
Yeah.
Look, I mean, why is it that we let ourselves, our minds go away from it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like I said at the top of the show, it was there. The clues were there, that this was potentially going to happen. I guess we just didn't trust the process that they could potentially get the trade done. But yeah,
it's hard to assume a trade.
Yeah, I agree. I certainly agree. But if there was one guy, like you said, that checked every damn box. I mean, a small victory for the system, because now we can continue on that system and eventually probably sway away from it late in the process next year. But yeah, you're right, Alex. I mean, and the whole hearts and smarts. Don't forget about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great character guy. You posted in the NFL, I think on NFL.com or NFL Network, shared the video of Devin Bush listening to the video made by Bush's family, talking about how proud they were, and he broke down, and it was just an emotional moment. So you just see how tight-knit that family is. And you shared the great article that, was it Jim Trotter that wrote the article on him and his dad? Yeah, It's a great article. We talked about it briefly a couple podcasts back, but worth mentioning now about the relationship between Devin Bush Sr. and Devin Bush. And, there were some tough times. Devin Bush Sr. was always hard on Devin Bush to try to push him and motivate him and get him to be the best player and person he could be. And then you saw in the video, his father really just talking about how proud he is of Devin and how far he's come along and how much of a person and a man he's kind of grown into and become. And I'm sure that moment meant the world to Devin Bush Jr. So just an awesome moment. And yeah, they're getting a high character, good leadership kind of dude.
And the thing that we don't know by trying to do this process, the thing that we do pre-draft, is we don't know a lot of the inside stuff when it comes to the character aspect.
Right.
We don't know a lot of, we can research and read as many articles as we can, but we don't know, we think that we know, but we don't really know some of the things, that go along with the character of some of these kids, or with a lot of these kids. And that, of course, makes the process a little bit hard, because we know the Steelers are attracted to the uber high character guys, especially in the first round. And do they draft, does every player that they draft, saint? No, absolutely not. But we know the kind of player that they kind of look for in the first round, and some of that stuff we just don't know. And also some of the things we don't know is just how active, just how big of a leader a kid is. You can have 5 different team captains from 5 different college teams, and they all have a different level of captaining. We don't know exactly just how much football smarts they have, just how much communication they do on the field. We can read about it,
right?
Through different articles and all like that, but unless we were interviewing the player, or we were interviewing the player's teammates, or we were interviewing the player's coaches, we just don't know that stuff. And he obviously checks all those boxes as well too. And those, the intangibles that Devin Bush has makes his tangibles that much better. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. You put that really, really well. It's that combination of the leadership and the communication, because if you're going to be that 3-down inside linebacker, which Bush is obviously projected to be, maybe not day one, but certainly at some point in the near future, you have to communicate. You have to be that leader. You have to be that traffic cop in the middle. And that's what Ryan Shazier did, and that's what Devin Bush did at Michigan. So you have to combine that, mental side of it with the physical side of it. And he's got both sides of that equation. So, you look at the family he comes from, and I know Tomlin kind of downplayed it, but they love the football families. They love guys that have that background, guys that were raised by guys that played in the NFL. And Devin Bush Sr., was a longtime safety, won a Super Bowl with the Rams in '99. And as I mentioned, and I don't know if it matters much, but it's a good little nugget of information that Keith Butler was the linebackers coach in Cleveland in 2001, 2002 when Devin Bush Sr. played his final 2 years in the league. So I have to think maybe there's a little bit of a connection there. But regardless, you look at Terrell Edmonds, TJ Watt, those are football families, and I think those help you create that picture about the kind of player that you're getting.
And, another thing that we didn't know, evidently Tomlin's son Dino was making some recruiting trips, and Michigan was one of those, I guess before this past season got underway. They got to know a little bit about Devin Bush even before this past season started. Colbert talks about how they went to a lot of the Michigan games this past year. We know the house that they, thank God for the internet and the Twitter machine. We know the kind of how large a contingent they sit to Michigan to watch, and we knew that probably even though Winovich was the only reported pre-draft dinner, they generally like to take a group of those kids out at a time if they can. Mm-hmm. So obviously Devin Bush was part of that. So once again, all the clues were there with this, and I think they got him a real fine kid in Devin Bush. No worries about that issue on it. Like I said, I think the intangibles make his tangibles even better. And with that, let's quickly talk about rehash again quickly those tangibles, and you get a guy that should be able to stay on the field all 3 downs. You got a guy with, obviously, as we said during our long kind of breakdown of him, that the athleticism is there big time on tape. Nobody's going to doubt that you can't see him being a sideline-to-sideline player. He is a good blitzer, even though he is a little bit undersized. He finds crevices that he's able to somehow get through, and when he does get through those, he usually comes away with the quarterback there. He can drop into coverage and really gets nice depth on kind of like the zone drops and all. My main concern about him still is overall size on him. Because there's definitely on tape you see him get overpowered by some guards in the middle of the field at time. So that's the concern of mine. And as I mentioned, from the stat sheet scout portion of Dave Bryan, man, it really is kind of troublesome when you just see you really, with that athleticism, you found yourself wanting more as far as the stat sheet goes. But as I made sure to point out during the process of our pre-draft podcast as well too, they help me with his name, Dallas linebacker,
Leighton Vander Esch.
Yeah, Vander Esch. With him coming out of Boise State was kind of the same, obviously not the same build and all like that, but wasn't a huge stat producer. But he's a Planet Theory guy, and it just goes to show, I guess, with that inside linebacker, you can't put so much emphasis on the stats. And I think you made a good point in our debate on Devin Bush. It's the things that he does that aren't on the stat sheet that make him even more valuable to the player, to the sideline-to-sideline player that he is. So now I think, have good examples. No, he's not Ryan Shazier coming out of college. All right, and he knows that. He's not going to try to be Ryan Shazier. He's going to try to be the best Devin Bush that he can. A fantastic answer there. But this is Ernie Sims all over again, and there's nothing wrong with that, because Ernie Sims played a long time in the NFL. In first 3 years, there were 3 people in the NFL in the first 3 seasons that Ernie Sims played that had more tackles than he did. So and plus another good thing about Ernie Sims is he played every game those first 3 seasons, and he was a starter, I think, right out of the chute as well with Detroit. So you're getting a guy that's going to impact the stat sheet on the tackle total aspect, and if you get more than that on the stat sheet, from Devin Bush, then you really have yourself a fine player. But once again, my concerns are him going against those NFL guards, that aspect of it, and really, can he be a big play producer at the NFL level?
The biggest thing that inside linebackers coach Jerry Olsavsky is going to have to teach and help Devin Bush with is learning how to defeat and disengage from blocks without trying to go around them all the time. When Ryan Shazier came into the league, he was a good player, but what made him a great player was when he stopped trying to duck and go around every single block. He'd end up out of his gap on the ground and easily washed. So once he learned how to use his hands and make up for the lack of size, make up for the lack of strength relative to facing these interior linemen, he became the all-star that he was. And that's what Devin Bush is going to have to be too. So I agree he's probably not exactly, Ryan Shazier. Obviously the college production was a lot different, but they have a similar profile, obviously. And for Bush to take that step that Shazier did, when Shazier did that really kind of starting year 2, and then from then on, it's going to be learning how to use his hands to defeat blocks without trying to go around every block every single time, because it's not going to work in the NFL.
Right. Everybody has speed in the NFL, and they're a little bit. Yeah. Everybody's a little bit larger too, right?
Yeah. Right.
But he did. He was able to do have that skill set in the big games against the big college programs. The problem is he just was not impacting the stat sheet in those ranked games.
Check out a clip of Ohio State in the post I had this morning.
Right.
He's running with Paris Campbell, who runs 4.31, by the way, down the seam and forces an overthrow. Doesn't show up on the stat sheet at all. He didn't deflect the pass, but he impacted the play.
Look at the play, the second and goal right before halftime in the Ohio State game. The pass out to the edge to Mike Weber. That looks like it's going in for a touchdown, but Bush gets around, gets through the traffic there and stops him short of the goal line and for a 1-yard gain, and then Ohio State had to settle for a field goal 2 plays later there. So look, 1 yard gains don't show up on a defensive player's stat sheet.
Right.
So if he can limit the amount of big plays, whether run or pass, against the Steelers defense, those things don't show up in the stat sheet. Once again, he gets amazing depth on his drops with that athleticism. Just the biggest concerns is that overall size with him being able to disengage from blockers, and how is he going to be as a blitzer against a better coach group of offensive linemen, especially through like the big gaps and stuff. So. Go ahead.
I do think Keith Butler does a great job of scheming these guys to win up the B gap and create one-on-one matchups against backs. I think he'll blitz effectively. Real quick, though, Dave, before we move on to day 2 and what might happen on Friday, what do you see as Bush's year 1 impact? Is he you think he's going to start out of the gate, rotational guy? You just had to give a rough answer right now. What do you see Bush doing year 1?
He's going to get on the field. It's just a matter of how quick. And boy, is this guy going to be. Danny Smith probably bought himself a lot of extra bubble gum last night, because this should be one hell of a special teams player to start with. Because of that speed and because of his striking ability, instant impact on special teams, obviously. From there, can he become with Mark Barron? You would think Mark Barron's going to be on the field, obviously, some to start the season. I think you ease Bush into some sort of role early in the season, and then by the midway point, he's out there. A lot. Now, can Barron slide over and kick Vince Williams off the field? I don't know about that, because he's a little bit smaller, overall. But, look, at least you have options now. What's going to happen with Jon Bostic? That's something else we're going to be talking about, and Tyler Matakevich and the whole the competition inside linebacker, but we'll save that for another podcast.
Yeah, I'm sure Jon Bostic was not happy about that pick. And that's tough for veterans. Veterans, don't like the draft. Rookies love the draft. We love the draft. Veterans don't, because they know those are guys that are taking their jobs. Now,
I hope Jon Bostic remembers how to be a good special teams player, because I know Tyler Matakevich knows that role inside and out. And it could come down to whatever guy there. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I think Jon Bostic's telling his agent, we're going to find a new team here soon. So I don't think we're going to be a Steeler much longer, because he's not going to be that core special teamer, even if he wants to be. Colbert compared, Bush and Barron in the same spot, being that Mac linebacker. So you'll definitely see the competition there. I know that people will want to kick Vince Williams out of the lineup because they're going to look at the speed, athleticism, and just kind of the new player smell of Mark Barron and Devin Bush. But the thing you have to keep in mind is that, one, they're both really considered MAC linebackers. They're not playing that buck position. And even if you have Barron and Bush on the field, who's calling the defense? You got Barron, a new guy to the system, a veteran overall, but a new guy to the system, and Bush, who's a rookie. Vince Williams has that trust because he calls the defense. He's playing that Shazier role. He's playing the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. So if you want to say that Barron and Bush are the two guys, I get it, but understand that intangible aspect of it, that someone's got to be the traffic cop here, and that's something that's going to take some time to do.
And Vince Williams does a great job of taking on blockers and all as well.
Yeah, and one of the best blitzing off-ball linebackers in football.
One other thing about Bush that while I'm thinking about that kind of worries me is him having to match up against some of these tight ends in the league. You go into the Penn State game, had a little bit of trouble there. Some of these bigger tight ends, if he's having to cover them out in space, I kind of worry sometimes about him getting maybe pushed aside a little bit there.
Yeah, but even if you're 6'1", you're still going to be outmatched by the 6'5" tight end. So, I mean, I give me the speed, athleticism, and the ability to make plays in coverage. But I understand what you're saying. All right, any other final thoughts?
No, we got plenty of time to break this kid down, and we will. We'll break him down like a shotgun here over the next 2 weeks. 2 months.
2 months, 2 weeks, definitely. Let's look at Friday. Obviously, Steelers are not picking at 52. I know it's a little disappointing. It never feels good to trade away your second-round pick, but when you have your guy, you get your guy. So the Steelers will pick at 66 and 83. Dave, I have an article, so we can go through some of the names there, but anyone that sticks out to you as saying this might be a pick on day 2 of the draft?
I kind of have, and I'm surprised you didn't put this in there either, Alex. 2 names that I have on my list that I don't believe are on your list. I don't think you can discount Chase Winovich right now if he were to fall that far. Probably a lot of people are not expecting him. Is that why he's not on your list? You don't expect him?
I don't expect him to get out of the second round. I mean, I know the Steelers pick at 66, but I just don't expect them to fall that far.
Let me ask you, what would it take to go up back into the second round at this point? Would your fourth do it? Probably not, right? I mean, would a fourth and a sixth do it? I mean, I don't know.
Here's the thing, is that obviously Colbert has said that they want to make 2 selections Friday, so they're not taking 66 and 83 to move up to like 50, or something like that.
Right. Those 2 picks are not going. I mean, the 2 third. Right. He's going.
Well, you could. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What I was going to say is, you're going to retain. You're not giving away that lower third round pick. Okay. Right. And it would make more sense if you're going to move up from the 66 pick.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You could package like a 66 and a 4th or a 5th to go up into the second round, and I suppose that's a possibility, but they just had this one trade. They do want to make some picks in this draft. I'd be surprised if they make another aggressive move.
Well, I was surprised they got that first round. That got me thinking, what would it take, to move up from 66, say, I don't know, 9 spots, another 9 spots, because I think that's about the area where Winovich is going to be, right? About 55.
I think somewhere around there. Yeah, mid to late second round would be my thing. Let's see, 57. Pick 57 is worth 330 according to our trade chart, and the Steelers 66 is worth 260. So that's a difference of 70. So if the Steelers traded 66, 122. And something else, it'd be a 6th-round pick. They could go up to, let's say, 57. So it's possible, but I find it pretty unlikely that they're going to make a move.
If there was one player they were going to go up for right now, would it be Winovich or Rakyasin?
I think it'd be a corner. I don't know what corner it would be. We can go through that whole debate again. But some of the names I do have listed on day 2 options. And corners could fall a bit because only one was taken yesterday. And hats off to you, Dave. I know you've been pretty skeptical of this cornerback class. Byron Murphy doesn't go in the first round. The only first-round corner selected was DeAndre Baker by the Giants. So I'm looking at Justin Lane. I'm looking at Sean Bunting. I'm looking at Isaiah Johnson. There's 3 names that stick out to me at corner that this team's got interest in. They brought Lane and Bunting in for a visit. Colbert was at Houston's Pro Day to look at Isaiah Johnson. I think they're taking a corner today. You just got to figure out who that corner is.
I think you should edit that post when we get done with this podcast and add Julian Love to it.
Again, I just wasn't sure if he was going to fall. But yeah, I mean, you could throw all those names in there, and you're right on about it.
I would not be surprised if they come out of today with two Notre Damers. Boykin is a guy that, we've had kind of as may potentially being that guy in that third round with one of those picks here in the third round. I think that's a possibility. Justin Lane, obviously. Sean Bunting, obviously. Who knows how far Rock Ya-Sin's going to fall. Winovich, I think that's a guy that you have to be if he gets in area for you as well, too. I'm not as big a fan of Isaiah Johnson, I don't think, as you are. So I kind of discount that. They didn't seemingly show the love to Amani Hooker, and he doesn't kind of fit. Normally the second rounder is what? A guy that's had his pro day either visited by Colbert or was brought in for a pre-draft visit, right?
Yes, but we're in the third round now, so all bets are off.
Okay, all right, third round.
Yeah, that's why I put those
Kevin
names on.
Colbert convinced me so much that was a low
Right.
second.
The Colbert Jedi mind trick.
He did. This is not the corner that you're looking for.
That's what he told John Elway. This is not the inside linebacker you were looking for.
Right, exactly.
Yep.
See, he's already got to me there. All right, well, okay, that makes sense. But I do think it's going to be somebody that we think that we're going to be able to connect the dots to.
Sure. And I think Amani Hooker is someone that I kind of maybe wish for than maybe a realistic hope. But Jaquil McCoy, third-round pick last year, total surprise. I mean, he was not on our radar one bit, but I mentioned Amani Hooker. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, your guy. I mean, I wish they would have showed a little bit more pre-draft interest in him, but I did interview with him at the Combine, and I think he fits well. And then a couple other edge guys, that were brought in for visits, Ben Banagou and your boy Charles Omenihu, who's probably very offended you didn't keep him in your final mock draft, and he's going to use that as a chip on his shoulder if he becomes a Pittsburgh Steeler.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I don't know what to do with Omenihu, to be honest with you. I mean,
I'm glad he's down to 264. I'm glad. I didn't know that till you told me on the last show.
Right. Just Google his pro day there and the weight and all. Here's something else I found out, and I found it out from Keith Butler's son. Keith Butler was not at the TCU pro day, so that discouraged me.
How did you find out from Keith Butler's son?
Don't worry about it.
Oh, all right. I'm now more worried about it. Did you say don't worry about it? Okay.
I have a relationship.
Who was at TCU? Did we know who was at TCU?
No. I think you have. I don't.
I'll look it up.
I think I even asked you, and you said kind of an unknown, unidentified person there.
Yeah, I just have an unknown person. I think it probably just means the TCU announced that all 32 teams were there, and
that's exactly what it was.
Okay.
I went back and looked I was hoping to find Keith Butler there.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought I saw him. Long story short, I messaged his son, and his son got back to me a day and a half later. Said no, his dad wasn't at TCU pro day. So
okay, wow.
So there you go. There. So now that in no way, shape, or form eliminates Ben Banagou. Sure. But it sure would have been nice to know that Keith Butler may have been there, being as how he's the acting outside linebackers coach there. Mm-hmm. I probably like Banagou more than most, and that's probably because I had done the contextualization on him and really probably have watched the most film of him of all of us and all. But I like him. I think Omenihu too. If you can get him to play outside linebacker, I think that could be a guy too. Any other edges? Ja'Kai Polite. I mean, how far does Ja'Kai Polite have to go before you take a chance on him?
He didn't come in for a visit. They weren't at his pro day. I can't see them having interest in Polite. I think for a team to draft him, you got to have that serious conversation more than just a 15-minute interview at the Combine.
Yeah, that's true. And I was hoping he'd be one of those pre-draft visits. Any other edges that outside linebackers that you think?
I mean, I'm just going to throw names at the wall here. They surprise with that. Well, I guess he's not a MAC guy, is he? But Max Crosby from Eastern Michigan. Is Eastern Michigan MAC? Maybe they are MAC. So I don't know.
Okay.
I know I haven't really studied him, but that could be a surprise name. But let me ask you this. This is my final question. Well, Jordan Burlford too, but put Jordan Burlford from Oklahoma State as a potential guy at 83. My question for you, Dave, my last one. Are the Steelers going to draft a corner today?
Yes.
I agree. I think you're going to see a corner come in and maybe a receiver, depending on – because the depth at corner and receiver is going to be excellent. Now, there's going to be a big run. Top of the second round, you're going to see receivers flying off the board. But I think the depth in the class overall at receiver is strong, and a corner with only one taken in the first round, I think it's going to present really good value at 66. So my guess, just a guess, 66 is going to be a corner, and then 83 receiver / safety.
I think we might be playing the Notre Dame fight song.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I really think there could be a chance that you see both those. Look, Jolyon Love is a better fit than I initially thought back first time through the tape.
Okay. And over the last 2 years, 60% of the Steelers draft picks, all of their draft picks have had either Colbert or Tomlin at their pro day. So that visit matters for more than just first and second rounders.
Right, exactly. Definitely going to be a fun day to watch. Probably not expecting them to move up, but hey, they did Thursday night. One other. Let's talk quickly about some of the other picks in the first round. Cleveland Farrell. I'm a Cleveland Farrell fan. Boy, try to say that real quick. Cleveland Farrell fan. But no way in the world did I think he'd go fourth overall, and I'm not sure I would have taken him over Josh Allen. But they want somebody to come in there and be kind of the cornerstone of this new Mike Mayock and set the tone of the kind of organization, blah, 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 the type of Raider that they're looking for, and nobody has a cleaner character in this draft than Cleveland Farrell. So I was proud that I identified maybe how good Farrell was in college, but in no way, shape, or form did I think he'd go fourth overall. Devin White, let me tell you, Devin Bush and Devin White. Devin Bush, his skills of processing and knowing what he sees and his tackling is better than Devin White's. Make no mistake. Mm-hmm. It's just that Devin White's more the Planet Theory guy, right?
Well, to be fair, White is an inch taller and I think 3 pounds heavier than Devin Bush. The size difference isn't much.
A little bit quicker.
But I think White's the better player. I'm not.
Right.
I'm not
the more analytical, the more perfect, ideal kind of fit from a size aspect and measurable aspect. But I think Devin Bush does things that Devin White doesn't. That Devin White's going to have to learn to do better. Devin Bush already does those things, so there is that. Let's see here. The other thing that stuck out. Go ahead.
Darnell Savage. I think you did a great job of calling him. He goes 21 to Green Bay. Green Bay trades up for him. I mean, that was the guy that rose up in the process, and I thought that was a great pick for the Packers.
Yeah, I was glad. Look, I mean, tape study, I was pretty confident that this was going to be a first-round guy. Let me ask you this: if the Steelers aren't able to trade up and they don't get Bush, was Darnell Savage going to be their guy?
I don't know. I'm going to pass. I don't know. Maybe. I would have liked it.
You got to think there's a good possibility, especially the way these corners fall out. Yeah. I really thought, to be honest with you, I thought Greedy, and I tweeted this out a couple weeks ago, I thought Greedy was going to be the only corner drafted in the first round this year. I thought both DeAndre Baker and Murphy were going to fall out of the first round. And props to both of us for saying that we're not getting the whole Rock Ya-Sin thing.
Well, you more than me, I thought it was going to happen. And maybe it would have happened at 20. I mean, we'll never know what they would have done at 20. So I'm just happy that they got Bush. We don't have to find out what if they would have taken Rock Ya-Sin.
And we'll find out how much in love with them they are in the second round if they go up, potentially somewhere in here to go. I'm not going to be surprised to see Rock Ya-Sin fall a little bit farther here. I think Greedy and Murphy are going to be potentially the next two corners off the board, and then go from there. But how exciting is it to sit there on the Twitter machine to see the word come across before the TV gets it that there's been a trade, that Denver's traded out, and you don't exactly know for about a minute and a half there who the team is that traded up, but
Yeah. I was just, as soon as I saw that in the background, I was watching NFL Network, and they cut to a wide shot with Rich Eisen and the gang, and you see the steel curtain in the background of the draft in Nashville, and you're just like, this is the dude. So even if you don't like the pick, you have to give credit for Colbert for identifying their guy. It was no secret that they love Devin Bush and being aggressive and going up and getting him.
All right. Anything else from the first round you want to recap, or we got it here?
Nope, I think we're good to go. But we'll be back tomorrow to talk about what
Yeah,
happened here on day
yeah,
two.
yeah. We'll recap day 2 of the draft. And look, you can tell in my voice probably when you get on with me with these podcasts. I think, man, Alex, we have had some fantastic discussions, you and I,
Oh yeah,
during this entire pre-draft process. I mean, I get giddy, and that's why sometimes these shows go as long as they do, longer than they're supposed to probably go. And hopefully that doesn't bother too many people.
I don't think it does.
But one of the things that I do related to what we do for the site and all has always been this podcast. I like talking about different aspects of this team, and when it comes to draft, man, I tweeted out yesterday. I wish the draft would get pushed back 2 more weeks so we'd have that much more time to study film and then talk about it. And I just want I think it's a testament to the work and the preparation that you put in as well. I mean, I really, really think we have put together some great pre-draft podcasts along the way here, and I appreciate that in you, and of course your work on the site as well.
Yeah, and everybody else, Tom Mead, Nick Farbaugh, Josh Carney. I mean, those guys. As soon as the pick came in, I'm getting Daniel. I mean, I'm getting articles from all these guys. The content that we had prior
Matthew
to
Marksey
of course,
is
Matthew.
Oh, Matthew Marksey is so incredible. If you I know you listeners don't know much about Matthew Marksey. What an incredible cornerstone he is to Steelers Depot. Yeah, absolutely incredible. All the guys right now. And shout out to the Steelers Depot hamster too.
The server, for those that don't know what you're referencing.
Yeah, the server just hummed along, and Alex and I made the conscious decision to switch the site last year. I think after the draft, after crashing. So hopefully the site holds up after applauding the hamster. It holds up on day 2 of the draft as well. So with that, this was supposed to be a 30-minute podcast. It turned into a 45-minute podcast. So I guess it's time to end this thing. We'll be back on Sunday morning or Saturday morning reviewing what had happened in Friday for the Steelers. You can follow me on Twitter at Steelers Depot. You can follow Alex Kozora at Alex_Kozora. You can follow the show at Terrible Podcast. You can email the show, theterriblepodcast@gmail.com. Do you like all this stuff that we've put on the podcast for you? If so, and all the content on SteelersDepot.com, go to the site and hit the donate button, upper right navigational bar. We certainly would appreciate it. And if you want a 1-year subscription to Steelers Depot without all the ads on the site, go to SteelersDepot.com and hit ad-free and follow the directions of $25 for a year for registering for an ad-free version of the site as well. And as always, thanks for listening to the Terrible Podcast with Dave and Alex.